Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name's Amanda N and today I'm going to tell you guys 2 ghost stories. So neither of these are proof that ghosts exist, they're just 2 of my only, I guess, paranormal experiences, if you can even call it that. I just know that it's the only 2 ghost experiences I've ever had when anyone has ever asked me, oh, do you believe in ghosts? I say there might be something, and these 2 stories are why. So the first one took place when I was about 10 years old and I was in the south of France. My dad had a friend who owned a castle there. It's actually relatively cheap to own a castle there because the French government is like, hey, if you maintain this historical castle for us, we'll let you live in there for really cheap. So you can buy it for really, really cheap, but maintaining it is so expensive, so that's kind of the give and take. So that's what one of my dad's friends decided to do, and we were visiting with him. His wife, and I believe they had like a maid or a housekeeper or someone that was helping to, maintain all of this. And then my dad and my mom were there, and other than that, it was, just me, the 2 couples, and the housekeeper. So my mom and I were the only 2 women in the house who spoke English. That's important to know for the story. So as I was going to bed one night while I was there, it was pretty creepy and cold, but as you'd expect, heating an entire castle is not exactly cheap. And of course, decorating an entire castle, not cheap either. So it was really empty, it was really dark, it was really cold. The perfect for a ghost, right? And so I was going to bed and the family dog was staying with me. She was just adorable, my favorite dog. She was sleeping at the foot of the bed, all that. And I didn't need a nightlight at this point. Again, I think I was about 10, but for whatever reason, I asked for one because dark, creepy, cold, you get the idea. As I was going to bed, I left the door open a little bit and I was starting to fall asleep and I saw a figure in the doorway and it was a woman. Now, she was pretty tall and my mom is very, very short. Like, I'm pretty sure she qualifies as a little person technically, just because she's very short. So she would not look tall in that doorway. She would not take up that doorway. So this woman took up most of that doorway. She must have been close to 6 feet tall with really long hair. Now that kind of matches the description of my dad's friend's wife, but she said goodnight to me in perfect English without an accent whatsoever. She went, "Good night," and then closed the door. I know that something closed the door. I remember the door closing, so to say that no one was there wouldn't really have made sense. I didn't close the door myself. I would not have done that because then no heat could have gotten into my room whatsoever. But when I woke up the next morning, I went and I asked my dad's friend's wife, "Hey, did you say goodnight to me?" She was like, What are you talking about?" I asked the housekeeper, "Did you say goodnight to me?" They're going, "What's wrong with you? What are you talking about?" And I said, I saw one of you say goodnight to me and you closed the door. I don't want my door closed. I was just really uncomfortable for whatever reason that they closed my door. I don't know why it made me so uncomfortable, but it made me uncomfortable. Both of them said, "No, we didn't go and say goodnight to you." So it wasn't my mom. It wasn't either of the men because it was definitely a woman's voice, and neither woman admitting to doing it. So maybe they did it and it was a prank on 10-year-old me, but the ghost spoke in English if it was a ghost, which wouldn't really make sense in a south of France castle. So yeah, really, really weird. I can't really explain that one away unless I say it was some sleep paralysis demon thing going on. But even then, why just say goodnight and close the door? I have no idea. The dog did react too, like lifting up its head and then putting its head back down when the person came and said goodnight. So yeah, that's creepy story number 1. I remember it pretty well to this day. As for the second story, this one I remember even clearer, and I have someone else who also remembers it very clearly. So I was driving home really late at night, heading back to my parents' house. I was leaving my partner's house at the time. So I was heading to my parents' house, and I was driving down this one road where there's really tall trees on either side. You know, they live in the middle of nowhere. And this really giant white thing just flies from one tree line to one tree line. It was huge. And to this day, I mean, snowy white owl with its wings open, I have no idea what animal could be that big. It didn't look like a bird. I can't describe what it looked like. It just kind of looked like a mass, just a mass of white, and it was screaming. And when it screamed, it was almost like maybe it was an owl cry, but when it screamed, the scream was really familiar. For whatever reason, when I heard it as it flew over my car, I'm going, wow, that's a really, why do I know that voice? And when I came home and I walked in the door, it was really late at night, but my mom was waiting by the door, and she was shaking and she was freaking out and she was acting scared. And I go, what's wrong? She goes, I just heard you screaming. So this was when I was really close to my parents' house, so it makes sense that my mom would have heard it because this was practically at the end of their driveway. But it freaks me out because if it had been an owl whose scream sounded like a person, I didn't see any wings. It was way bigger than any owl I'd ever seen. And I don't know that any of those owls are actually native to that area, so I don't really know what that could have been either. I know that a lot of screams can sound like human screams. I've said that on the channel before, so I'm sure that this is explainable, but the color of it was very unlike any owl that I have seen, and kind of unlike a snowy white owl even. And I know that snowy white owls are not native to that area where my parents live, so yeah, I have no idea what either of those things were. But both of those ghost stories just kind of send a chill up my spine. They gave me really, really weird vibes when I was in them. I'm sure both of them are perfectly explainable. Let me know in those comments down below what you think the explanation to those are, and I'd love to hear some of your personal ghost stories. Alright, bye guys! See you next week.